All right. Well, with this busy week going by, we've had a lot of different people on. I couldn't let Terminello's take slip through the cracks for this week because I know, Lou Terminello, you have a take for the disastrous Jets loss, Giants loss, and of course the disastrous press conference by Brian Cashman. So my question to you is, are we pretty effing good as a podcast, or do we need improvement? Because I think we can say that, but we can also acknowledge we need some improvement here and there. And that's what Brian Cashman didn't acknowledge right off the bat.
Well, you said Jets, Giants, Yankee press conference, disasters. You could also add, and we don't know this because we don't know what's going to happen with this managerial change the Mets made, but the Carlos Mendoza thing came out of the blue. So first of all, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. But the Cashman press conference, for a guy who has been with the number one team in Major League Baseball for almost 3 decades, a guy who knows the New York media, a guy who knows how to handle the New York media. Yesterday, he did not handle the New York media. He seemed frustrated. He seemed very defensive. But the one thing I got out of it, make no mistake, Alex, he's in charge of the Yankee on-field personnel. I mean, there's nobody above him that's going to push him. Hal Steinbrenner is not going to push him. I don't, that's how I interpreted it. He was very, very as belligerent as I've ever seen him because, let's face it, Brian Cashman has seen everything with the New York Yankees, and he knows how to handle everything. But yesterday he was a little snippy, to be sure, and a little defensive.
Well, and a little out to lunch. I hate to say this because I've not met the guy. I know the guy, and it's sad to see. It seems like the stress of losing has gotten to him to the point of having to be defensive. But when you are asked about your kids not coming up and playing, you don't say, well, that's because they didn't have a lane. You say, yeah, we stuck with Donaldson and Hicks too long. But he was proud of sticking with them and edging out the kids, it sounded like. It didn't sound like he was remorseful that Donaldson was taking up all the airtime from the kids. I didn't get that from him at all.
Well, again, he signed he made a trade for Donaldson. He re-signed Aaron Hicks. General managers don't want to admit that they're wrong, and it's hard for them to swallow their pride and cut a player, trade a player that they made a mistake on either signing a long contract to or trading for. I was surprised when the Minnesota Twins signed Josh Donaldson. And then when they traded him to the Yankees, I was surprised the Yankees wanted that trade. It just makes no sense to me. On MLB Network today, I was watching for a couple of minutes, and they showed Sonny Gray's stats, Aaron Hicks' stats, and of course it was for 3/4 of a year, how they were better. And Sonny Gray's was obviously for 3 years outside of New York than they wanted to with the Yankees. Even a guy like Joey Gallo, who, I never had much, what should I say, not respect for, but he is what he is. But his numbers, his analytic numbers were better, a better slugging percentage. Yes, he struck out a ton of times with the Yankees. I don't know what the Yankees saw in him. But again, not only you got to get players of talent, but maybe Sonny Gray couldn't play in New York. Maybe Aaron Hicks couldn't play in New York. I think his OPS, since he went to the Orioles, Aaron Hicks's was over 125 higher than his time with the Yankees. Sonny Gray's ERA was a run and a half lower. So maybe you really gotta get lucky, and you really gotta do some due diligence besides analytics to look into a guy's personality and see, can this guy play under the pressure cooker that is New York City? We've seen it in all sports. We've seen it in all sports here in New York.
Analytics and Boone were also the two big topics of actually Hal Steinbrenner's speech and Brian Cashman. And it was like a 1-2 punch. Yeah, people love Boone, so we're keeping him. And then all of a sudden, we don't get run by analytics. What are you talking about? Like, it just both of them seemed really tone deaf, and it's kind of sad that the Yankees ineptness with these press conferences have trumped what's going on in NFL. I mean, it just when it's that bad, it's that bad, right?
Well, you're right. And the thing is, the Yankees do live on analytics, as do many major league teams. And as I told you many times, I am not against analytics. Even watching the postseason playoffs this year, Bruce Bochy, definitely not coming from the analytics point of view, he definitely used analytics where he thought it was going to help the Rangers win a game, especially with the him making the pitching changes. I mean, you saw it. He took out Montgomery one game. I thought maybe a couple of batters too early. But again, he's not going to live and die by analytics. And that's what it seems like the Yankees are doing. And that is my fear with David Stearns becoming the Mets president of baseball operations and signing Carlos Mendoza, Aaron Boone's right-hand man, as their manager. Are the Mets going to even go deeper into analytics? Again, there's analytics and there's that eye test. Every game is different. The computer's not going to tell you what's going on that particular game against that particular team. So I don't know. I really don't know. Now, Steinbrenner said that the Yankees are going to be active in free agency, and I think they will. And I think they'll be active in the trade market. And we'll have to wait and see. But he definitely, going back to Cashman, he definitely had his backup, as they say yesterday. He didn't want to be there. And you could tell he had sunglasses on. He just wanted to get through it, and move on to where he was going to next.
But then he decided to stop for almost over 20 plus minutes, maybe even half an hour to 45 minutes and talk with him. So clearly he had some stuff to say to the reporters, and maybe it was building up all season.
Probably was, and he's never dodged the media. He really hasn't. I mean, over his Yankee tenure. I mean, I agree with you. Did you get anything out of Hal Steinbrenner? Was he different than any of most of the other owners? No. So.
Well, we'll see what happens. Tonight's actually the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation Gala, which is pretty cool. And you wonder what the media presence will be like there, because the media follows this Yankees organization and alumnus everywhere, as you know, Louis, being in the business for many, many years, right?
Well, the media will be there. Bruce Beck will have an interview at 11 o'clock. If they can't get on 11 o'clock, it'll be on 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Yes, you're right. The media will be at that, especially coming off yesterday. They'll be at the event tonight. And obviously, Joe Torre, one of the greatest managers in Yankee history, they're going to ask him questions. And Joe, the one thing that Joe did better than anything as Yankee manager, and he did a lot of good things, he knew how to play the media. He knew how to handle the media and really not get into any hot water. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting winter meeting. They start, I think, December 3rd in Nashville. It's going to be a very interesting meeting.
And the Ohtani situation is burning up literally right now. Nobody knows where he's going to go. There's a lot of speculation. As you knew and I know, we don't like speculation. We just want to see where the guy ends up, right? So, and then Soto, who goes for Soto? It's going to be a big trade over there. And, the Padres have not been doing well financially either. So I think they want to try and offload him. We'll see what happmes. But the
Padres didn't get their $50 million TV money. I believe the Bally Sinclair Sports Regional Sports Network is in big trouble and bankruptcy. So I think that is a huge part of the Padres.
I heard the Padres had to take out a loan to cover.
Yes, they did. That is correct. They got a $50 million loan because they didn't get any TV money. So
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the gridiron, because I know that's one of your bread and butters as well. And this team, I don't know which one you're talking about first, but this Jet team looks lifeless, and yet at 3-4 they don't seem too hopeless. But maybe they are after this loss. I don't know. I feel like their record's a little more navigable than the Giants, though. Would you agree?
Well, just from a number standpoint, They are, but I hate to be repetitive, and we've talked about this a million times on this segment, and I'm sure it gets boring for people who are listening, but it all goes back to the fourth snap of the season, the third official play, when Aaron Rodgers snapped his Achilles. That's where the season really came to an end, or slow down in mud and mush. Zach Wilson has to be the worst quarterback in the NFL. I don't see any hope. Alex, yeah, I'll throw a couple things at you. These are the last 6 games. New England, 2 out of 14 on third down. They lost 15-10. 2 out of 14 on third down. Kansas City, they played well in that game. 5 out of 12 on third down, which is the best of all these stats I'm going to give you. Denver, which they won, 3 out of 12 on third down. Philadelphia, which they won, 2-11 on third down. The Giant game, which they won in overtime, 2 out of 19 on third down. The Los Angeles Chargers, which they lost, 3 out of 17 on third down. Now let's look at the Charger game. The Jet defense held one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and a very good NFL offense in the Los Angeles Chargers. Held Herbert. Their defense held Herbert to 136 yards passing, lowest in his career. He was sacked 5 times, most in his career. He was hit another 13 times. For the first time in his career, he didn't hit a pass of at least 25 yards. And the Jets, as good a defensive effort as that was, they still lost because Zach Wilson fumbled at midfield. Chargers scored on a 50-yard drive. Then in the fourth quarter, the last touchdown, Zach fumbled. The fumble was returned to the 2. On the next play, they scored. That's really not on the defense. Plus, the opening touchdown was something that was a little uncharacteristic for the Jets because they usually have very good special team coverage. But that opening punt return for a touchdown put them behind the 8 ball right away. And the Jets really have a trouble playing catch up. Yeah, I know they came back from 17-0 against Kansas City, but that was that was a miracle. And just look at the red zone against the Eagles, 1 for 4 in the red zone, when the Eagles basically let them score to get the ball back. Against the Giants, they only got in the red zone twice. 0 for 2 in the red zone. Against the Chargers, 0 for 2 in the red zone. Against Denver, 0 for 5 in the red zone. Against Kansas City, they actually were 2 for 3 in the red zone. So the offense is killing them because the quarterback can't play. Yes, they have a ton of offensive line injuries, a ton. They're moving, the third string right tackle to start at right guard. Billy Turner started the other night. I have no idea if he has anything left as a player. And you couple that with Zach Wilson, who the defense are saying, we dare you to beat us. We dare you to beat us. And he can't, which affects Breece Hall and everybody who tries to run the football for the Jets. Do you realize the last 3 Jet touchdowns were all one-play drives? The 50-yard screen pass to Breece Hall against the Giants, the walk-in by Breece Hall against the Eagles, and the 70-yard run by Breece Hall the week before in Denver. I mean, they haven't even
Breece has made a difference, but everything else around him, you just wonder, as we've said, why there's no backup at all. It's ridiculous to me that there's no backup to the backup. I don't know how they manage like that.
Well, as we can go back to April, and I forget what, I guess it was right after the trade was made for Aaron Rodgers, and I said to you on this podcast, now they got to get rid of Wilson, and they got to find a capable NFL backup quarterback. But they didn't. Again, maybe because Joe Douglas drafted him number 2. But I hear differently. I hear Joe Douglas was ready to move on, but they decided not to do it. I know. We see Carson Wentz sign the other day with the Rams. I know he's better than Zach Wilson right now. Joshua Dobbs, who's been on 5 teams since December, is better than Zach Wilson right now. He got traded the other day, didn't know a play, Joshua Dobbs, and he led them to that victory against Atlanta at the end. He has a feel. Zach Wilson has no feel for the game. He has no feel for a pressure. He just doesn't have it. I mean, I just hate to kill the guy, but he's killing the Jets. He's holding them back. So next year, Rodgers comes back. Next year he comes back. He's healthy. Do you know that is Sauce Gardner going to be healthy? Is he not going to tear up his knee? Played a spectacular game the other night. Quincy Williams, NFL Defensive Player of the Month. Is he not going to get hurt? You got to seize the opportunity. And that's what the Jets, and a credit to them, were doing when they got Aaron Rodgers.
No, when you told me, Lou, that the Jets allowed 30 points, but the defense played great, I was kind of scratching my head. So you're telling me it was an offensive disaster.
It was an offensive disaster. The Chargers had 191 total yards. They should have won that game. Yes, the punt return also counts as Bill Parcells, you say, those hidden yards that you don't see in rushing and receiving. But it's a disaster. I mean, this good roster is being wasted because they have an inept quarterback. And Alex, there are a lot of inept quarterbacks in the NFL right now. There's 46 quarterbacks who have played a game this year, 46 different quarterbacks, and 10 rookies. With DeVito starting on Sunday, he will be the 10th rookie to start when he plays against Dallas. So that it's hard to find backup quarterbacks. But when you're going for it, like the Jets were going for it, and they did the right thing, they just didn't finish the deal getting a competent backup quarterback. I mean, Tyrod Taylor was out there. Gardner Minshew was out there. Wentz was out there.
Well, let's talk about this then, because the Giants, the Giants have a backup, and now this backup is starting, right? But meaning Tommy DeVito. But I mean, you have Matt Barkley in the practice squad. Why not bring him up? Why not give him some snaps?
Well, let's see what DeVito does. He knows the system better. I'm sure Barkley would play. And I'm glad you brought up Matt Barkley, because when he was a junior at the University of Southern California, he was projected, if he had came out as a junior, to be a top 5 pick. Then he went back to USC and did not have as great a senior year as he has junior year. And I forgot where he was picked in the draft. I don't even think he was picked in the first round, maybe not even second round. I don't recall where he was picked. But the kid has never made it in the NFL. But a year earlier, if he came out a year earlier, he would have been drafted in the top 5 or 6 of the NFL draft. So again, the draft is a crapshoot. I mean,
it's just all frustrating. And I know you're not going to like me for saying this, but Joe Shane goes out to USC again, right? They're scouting out Caleb Williams at a bad game the other night. But besides that, and they lost, but besides that, then the Giants look like they can't even tackle. I mean, I'm not one to say anybody tanks, but that looked like a tank job if I ever saw one.
Well, it looked like, at first defensive possession when the Raiders won the toss. And that defensive possession looked inept, if not tanking. I could not believe that how they allowed the Raiders to jet sweep, and there was nobody there on the defensive side of the ball. No range from the linebackers. That first drive was pathetic. The Giants, but I'm going to tell you one thing, my dear friend, the Giants aren't tanking. They don't need to tank. They'll lose on their own. They don't need to tank. Tonight, Chicago is playing at Carolina. Chicago has Carolina's pick. So Chicago might have 2 of the first 4 picks. And they drafted Justin Fields, same year the Jets drafted Zach Wilson. But I'm telling you, one of those 2 picks, they're picking a quarterback. They're not sticking with Justin Fields, who is better than Zach Wilson. Not much, but he's better.
No, I'm a little wary of teams that might actually decide to actually tank, because I think that's just the wrong way to approach it. And I would pray that the Giants are not. But all I saw in the headlines this week was
Alex, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The Jets were 0-13, and it looked like they were going to get Trevor Lawrence. They were 17-point underdogs at Los Angeles against the Rams. The Rams coming off a Super Bowl the year before. The Jets, and you could tell right away the Rams weren't ready to play. Jets got off to a lead. They end up winning that game. One of the guys I know, one of the executives I know went for the Jets, was out there for the game with the team. Walked into the locker room after the game. A lot of these guys were not going to be on the Jets next year because the team was terrible. Guys were crying that they were so happy that they won the game. They were euphoric because they did not want to be part of a team that was 0-16. So the Giants aren't going to tank. They may lose on their own volition, but they're not going to tank. Dexter Lawrence is not tanking. Xavier McKinney is not tanking. Barkley's not tanking.
And I don't think Dable has that in him either. He's a competitor.
And I don't think Dable has it either.
It just, he's made some really bad decisions. It's just, I wouldn't even call them tanking decisions. It's just bad coaching decisions, which no one can understand. And I will not understand half the stuff that's been going on this season. But amidst all the fall from grace that we've talked about, there's that little team at the Garden that's now like still second place in the conference, I think, and getting a point or two almost every game. And I mean the Rangers, and again, second straight week we could say, hey, they're having a good start to the season.
Well, as I've consistently said, the Rangers are one of the handful of teams that have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, and they're going to be without Adam Fox for the whole month of November at least. But the Rangers are there. This is their time, and it was their time last year, and they were stopped by the Devils in the first round. We talked about it, but they're deep, and I know last week we talked about how great Chris Kreider was playing. He can obviously kill penalty. You could score on a power play. Can play at 5-on-5. I know you don't pick MVPs on November 9th, but he's right there for MVP along with Jack Hughes, who got hurt the other night. Were you in St. Louis by any chance?
Yeah, right. There's an inside joke to that. Sorry, Mario. There's an inside joke to that, which we can get into. But I'll tell you what, that's unbelievable that he's been injured now 2 years, and 2 years in a row for a significant time. But
yeah, hopefully it's not long because he was the leading scorer. You were telling me
the Islanders had some chance going on the other day. What happened there?
Look, the Islanders are the same team that they were last year. You hate to say it's like a Groundhog Day with the Islanders from last year. It's Groundhog Day. Their power play sucks. They're getting spectacular goaltending, more spectacular than most people know, because they've given up the most shots in the NHL through the first month of the season. And even guys like Varlamov and Sorokin, they're both fantastic goaltenders. They can't stop everything. It looks like there's a lack of structure in their own end. They look disorganized at times. And the fans were chanting the other night. Yes, they were. They were chanting against the general manager. And I just wouldn't be surprised that in the next 6 weeks, right around that Christmas break, if you see a coaching change. That wouldn't surprise me. I'm not calling for it, but something has to be done.
I know it's getting tiring for the Islander fans, but we'll have to see. Now, I want to switch gears because I know you're going to light up when I tell you this one. You know whose birthday it is today, Lou Terminello?
Whose birthday is today? A famous birthday. Tell me.
Bob Gibson was
Oh,
born on this date in 1935.
Bob Gibson, who once threw 12 consecutive complete games in 1 month in 1968, July of 68.
So I knew you'd light up about that because I know you have some
Yeah.
giving stories
And
you want to share.
you talk about a guy who was fearless, who you put the ball in his glove and you could take a deep breath. He was one of those guys. Fantastic pitcher, had guts of steel, and wow, today was his birthday. Just a tremendous, tremendous pitcher. You know, you look at a guy like Gibson, right? I just said 20 completed 12 complete games in 1 month in 68. Do you realize that Blake Snell is probably the #1 free agent pitcher? And he's going to get a lot of money. I don't know. Some team will give him some ridiculous amount of years, 7 or 8. 35 million, 38 million, something like that. Maybe 40 million. Who knows? Alex, this year, he pitched into the 8th inning for the first time in his major league career. Are you kidding me?
Snell?
Yep.
Well, remember, and my dad often talked about how Kevin Cash's stupid move pulling Snell out of that game against the Dodgers cost them dearly.
Your dad, God rest his soul, was 100% correct. They might have beaten the Dodgers in that pandemic World Series. There's no doubt about it.
But Lou,
they get these cards, Alex. They get these computer cards from some guy who 130-pound guy who went to Dartmouth or Stanford or Princeton, who punches in all these analytics, and Kevin Cash probably cost him a chance to win a World Series. But analytics have helped Tampa Bay make up for the lack of resources they have to get big name players. So they're not. Well, Lou, Tampa Bay's not changing their ways.
I gotta say this: if you had openers before Don Larson's perfect game, or any of Gibson's wins, or even how dare I say a Nolan Ryan no hitter, I mean, they would throw the opening pitcher off the mound and say, "This is my mound."
It's true. I mean, Arizona used an opener in the freaking World Series. That's ridiculous.
And now Manfred wants to do away with that, which would be great. Also, how many guys would be taken out? Like, these managers have more guts and, dare I say, balls back in the day. They wouldn't take out a Don Larson, a Whitey Ford, Gibson. Who else am I thinking of here? Nolan Ryan,
or a Seaver, a Jim Palmer,
Koufax.
Yeah, Drysdale. They just wouldn't do it.
But these guys are following a sort of order that no purist should be in favor of. Would you agree?
100%. I mean, let's go back to the 1969 Miracle Mets. The Mets won Game 2, tied the series. Jerry Kuzma went 8 2/3 innings. Ron Taylor got the last out. The Mets go up 2-1. Nolan Ryan actually got the save in that game. And then in Game 4, Tom Seaver pitched a 10-inning 2-1 win. The next day, Jerry Kuzman pitched a complete game in a clinching game. So out of 4 games, the Mets had 3 complete games in the World Series. Tug McGraw, who was one of their bullpen guys, he pitched in the NLCS. Alex, he didn't pitch in the World Series. They didn't need him. It's a whole different game.
This is why I bring you on, Louis, because I love what you say. And has the whole all hands on deck mantra, which we all hear when a team's down to their last game, has that changed now during the pitching count era, or is it still the same kind of mentality?
It's the same kind of mentality, even back in the old days, all hands on deck. That hasn't changed when you're up against the wall, or in a Game 5 or a Game 7 or best of 3. That's still the same. That really hasn't changed much at all. If a guy is ineffective, or he seems a little off. Even back in the day, they took him out in the third inning because it was do or die.
Well, I love that this conversation started with baseball and is ending with baseball, sort of. But any other thoughts that you want to weigh in with Terminello's take this week? The other thing that bothered me so much is that all these guys sign these big contracts, and then they just go down in a heap. I mean, Danny Jones is out for the season. The Angels, we don't have to talk about them, how Trout signed that big deal and was out. It's not like these guys collect the check and say, I'm not going to take care of myself, right?
No, they don't. And again, all right, you go back to Daniel Jones. And I've always liked Daniel Jones as a quarterback, and we saw him play Army twice when he was at Duke. But just in football, you got to get lucky too. I mean, Daniel Jones is a great athlete. We see that. He's a great runner. He's a big, strong guy. It goes to show you sometimes how lucky you have to be. Because look at the quarterback that preceded him. Yes, he won 2 Super Bowls. Yes, he was an excellent quarterback. Yes, he had an excellent career. He was not an excellent athlete, and he never got hurt. So how do you figure that out? You look at a guy like Garoppolo, big, strong guy, built like a brick, you know why. Always gets hurt. I mean, it's hard to figure, my friend. It really is.
Well, this has been great and eye-opening again, and I can't wait to get more guests on. I can't wait to talk with you more as the weeks go on, and hopefully there's not that repetitive, oh my God, what happened this week, but maybe there just is that kind of nature this year. I don't know. It's very strange to me, Lou.
Well, the baseball season was a little strange with the Mets and the Padres and the Yankees and the Cardinals all really having bad years, not even close to reaching their goals. We thought all those 4 teams would be in the playoffs, and they weren't. The football season's been strange. But one last thing, I don't know what's going to happen with this Michigan sign stealing scandal. I can't believe that the Big Ten hasn't made some kind of decision on Harbaugh or on Michigan. They're playing at Penn State on Saturday. It's Thursday afternoon. Is Harbaugh going to be able to coach on Saturday? I don't know. That's something to keep an eye on as we move forward.
Oh yeah. Imagine he's in this freaking imagine he's in the playoffs, because they are really actually dominant on the field. It's kind of wild what's going on off the field and on the field, and they're still winning. And also it's like that wreck of an Edmund Fitzgerald all over again, just in Michigan football. So we'll see what happens. As a Harbaugh fan, I'm very disappointed, though. I gotta say, I'm just very.
I agree, but Alex, if he gets suspended, I have a feeling he's leaving Michigan and go to the NFL.
Well, you heard that here on Terminello's Take, and we'll see what happens. But on that note, Lou, let's do this again next week, maybe with some brighter aspirations and brighter news to say.
Yeah, no, I hope so, Alex. I didn't want this to be a downer, but
well, then one last thing, we didn't even catch it. We talked with Ralph Lawler, about that. Thanks again for Ralph Lawler for joining us. The play-in tournament, are you impressed so far, or are you not?
Buzz or no buzz? No buzz. Let's see it play out. I don't want to make a definitive summation of what it could be, but really, I was watching, the last Friday night, the opening night of the tournament, and the Nets were playing in Chicago, and the Knicks who did the Knicks play? They were playing Milwaukee, I think. And I was going back and forth on the games, but it just seemed like a regular season game. The courts are funky, that's for sure.
They are an eyesore. They're not funky. They're a damn eyesore, Louis.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like them, but we'll see. Maybe as it gets closer to the end. And again, I'm sure they'll tweak the mistakes that they made this year. One thing real quick on it. Now, it's the NBA Cup. But, Alex, there was no identification on those eyesore of a court. NBA Cup. They had the trophy in the middle, but there was really no identification. So if somebody just turns the television on, they think they're watching the Mets and the Nets and the Bulls, or or the Bucks and the Knicks. They just think it's another game. Yes, it is another game as it counts in the regular season, but we'll see. Let's let it play out. But buzz or no buzz, Alex, no buzz so far.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just glad that RJ Barrett became the youngest Knick to 5,000 and really an elite guy. Another Duke product, by the way. We talk about Danny Jones. This guy's a Duke product on the court. And man, has he been worth the draft pick for the Knicks? I'll tell you that much. So,
well, they had enough chances to get one right.
On that note, Lou, thanks for your take again this week, and we'll do it again.
Alex, thank you as always. I appreciate it. Look forward to next week.